In the last episode, the Misfits caught the stallion, then Purse cut it loose, then Gay caught it again, then he cut it loose. All in the name of love. Gay Langland realized a lifestyle was over, and he had to find a new way to feel alive.
What the hell you catch him for?
Don't want nobody making up my mind for me, that's all. Damn them all. I changed it. Changed it all around. Smeared it all over with blood. I'm finished with it. It's like I grew up in a dream now. I just gotta find another way to be alive, that's all.
So the next morning they're driving out to the dry lake bed, and you have Gay driving the truck with Roslyn in the middle, and then Purse sitting next to her in the passenger seat. And Guido flies his airplane over the truck. He parks it by the dry lake. They pull up next to the airplane. They don't show the last part, but then they show the scene where it's already night. And that kind of got lost in translation because it was the next morning and then it's already night, so they missed how long it took from them in the morning getting up at the ranch and going out there. That took a whole 10 hours. So that kind of got lost in translation. But the main thing, Guido looks up at the stars, and remember, he's the intellectual. This is kind of how Arthur Miller interjects himself in the movie. And he says, you know, that star is so far away, when the light gets to us, it may not even exist anymore. And I thought that was interesting. And the reason I believe they put it in the movie, because Roslyn says, wow, it's really good to know things, Guido. And Guido says, another proclamation that, or so-called speech that Miller put into the movie, because Miller, when he saw the screening afterwards in New York, he said to John Huston, wow, I'm glad you didn't let me put another speech in the movie because I probably would have ruined it. So these were a series of speeches, and they were primarily from Guido. And Guido says, Roslyn, no, it's not so important to be smart and know things. You have something better, and that is that you care. You feel what other people feel.
Still, it's wonderful to know things.
Knowing things don't matter much. You got something a lot more important. You care. Whatever happens to anybody, it happens to you. You're really hooked into the whole thing, Rosamund. It's a blessing.
Say, I'm just nervous.
If it weren't for the nervous people in the world, we'd all still be eating each other.
You feel what other people feel. And what he's trying to say is that Roslyn has empathy for people, for animals, and that's really much more important because she's making the world better, okay? And these speeches, I believe, is what Miller, as the intellectual himself, thought about Marilyn Monroe. He may have very well have said all of these things to her in their private life. You know, Marilyn, you have this gift for life. You brighten a room. And she did, by the way. All the people who knew her and were close to her. Frank Sinatra was devastated when she died. Montgomery Clift was so wooed by her in this movie. They became very close, and they went to the premiere in New York, January 31st of 1961. I had a short on that. And every single person, the Strasbergs, Paula Strasberg, Susan Strasberg, Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio were really wooed by her. And Ralph Roberts, which book I'm going to go over, he became her personal masseuse. And when he first met her in New York, because he was also studying at the Actors Studio, he became her masseuse because he studied that because he just wasn't getting enough roles. He wanted to supplement his income. So, and I'll go over that when we dive into his book, Mimosa, which is about his relationship with Monroe as her confidant and massage therapist. And he got a small part in the Misfits. So, in his time with the Misfits is what the title says. He was just blown away. He says, "Who is that?" But she walked into Lee Strasberg's kitchen in New York City, and Susan Strasberg, Lee's daughter, said, "You don't know who that is? Who that is? That's Marilyn Monroe." She had just got done doing the 7-Year Itch, and she had done Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, There's No Business Like Show Business, Niagara. So she had done a lot of movies and was a megastar by now. So he didn't, but you know, she did in private. She kind of wore loose pants, a loose blouse. So it was, but he saw her from the neck up, that beautiful blonde hair. He says, "Wow, who is that?" And so that's how he met her. But every time she walked into a room, everyone would say the same. In fact, Roberts, just to take a little snippet from his book, said that when they were in LA, she wanted to get some utensils for her home. And they were walking together to a hardware store to pick up some, I guess back then they sold pots and pans at hardware stores. And she's like, she will usually wear like a hat, a floppy hat, and sunglasses, and a loose fitting blouse, loose pants. And as they were walking to the hardware store, I think it was on Sunset Boulevard or Beverly Hills Boulevard, down in that area, she takes off the hat, she takes off the glasses, and stops traffic. Everyone's going, "Oh my gosh, it's Marilyn Monroe!" and then she puts her hat back on. They keep walking, and Robert says to her, did you just do what I thought you did?" And she said, "Yeah, sometimes I just want to be Marilyn Monroe," as opposed to Norma Jean, you know. And I thought that was just absolutely so funny. When Guido talks about the stars and says, you know, you got something more important that you care, the dog starts panting, and then Guido lets out, he always blows it, right? He lets out that the dog's nervous because he knows the mustangs are going to get killed. Because Monroe thought, or Roslyn thought, that the mustangs would be caught but be sold for ponies. So the next scene, Gable walks her over to the flatbed truck. He wants her off the ground because they're camping, doesn't want some critter crawling around her. She lies down on a sleeping bag, and there's some very well-known photos of this scene. And in fact, in one of the photos, interestingly enough, Kay Gable was in the back standing watching them do this scene, Clark Gable's wife. And so they're doing this scene, and it's mainly about, you know, she doesn't want these horses killed, and she's very disturbed about it. And Gay says to her, you know, got to take some bad with the good. It's not as bad as you make this all out to be. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just doing the same thing I've always done, like before the war, which is catch them. Back then, the dealers would sell them as ponies. Now they sell them as dog food. But I have nothing to do with the dealers, just like you, Roslyn, have nothing to do in your nightclub with the men that are gawking at you. You want to put on your best show, your best dancing moves, and they're thinking of something altogether. They're looking at you as a physical, as a sexual object. But you can't change them, just like I can't change the dealers. So this is how I dance. This is my thing. This is what I really enjoy in life, is catching mustangs, running free in the mountains, getting away from the city.
Maybe we're all alike, including you. We start out doing something, meaning no harm, something that's naturally in us to do. But somewhere along the line, it gets changed around into something bad. Like dancing in a nightclub. You started out just wanting to dance, didn't you? But little by little, it turns out that people ain't interested in how good you danced. They're gawking at you with something entirely different in their minds. And they turn sour, don't they? I gotta look down my nose at you, too. Showing yourself off in a nightclub for so much a night. But I took my hat off to you, because I know the difference. This is how I dance, Roslyn. And if they make something else out of it, well, I can't run the world any more than you could.
You took your hat off to me.
So you go to the end, the last scene, Gay realizes this is just a dream now, chasing the horses. So he asks Roslyn if she needed a ride home, and they get in the truck, and then she says, Gay, I'm not afraid anymore. And she gets the dogs, she gets Gay's dog, and they see the mustangs running out in the distance. And as they're looking through the windshield, they're actually filming this in the truck cabin at Paramount Studios. And I actually went there, so it's cool to see the place where that last scene was filmed, as well as a lot of the inside the station wagon scenes, with a rear projection of the hills and the country and in other areas like the sagebrush that you see out in the Nevada desert. So they're driving out, Roslyn runs out and gets Tom Dooley, Gay's dog, and he says, God bless you, girl. And he realizes how lucky he is to have her, because she said, you know, I'll leave tomorrow. He kind of ignored that. And like I said, they're looking out onto the horses. That's actually, they're just looking out onto the soundstage, all right? And that was soundstage number 2. The main gates of, by the way, of Paramount Studios, you'll see 4, and you go in through the gates on the tour, and just to the left there's a narrow road where these golf carts where they take you on the tour, they go through there, and it's actually a working studio. I saw a bunch of films that they were doing there, including Matlock, the new Matlock, and the new NCIS they're doing there, and a bunch of other ones. So The Rookie, and I saw one of the actors walking through there, from the lead actor, I forget his name, from NCIS, but it's cool. You go through that just to the left of Soundstage 4 at the main gate. A little further down is Soundstage 2, where Clark Gable filmed his last scene ever. So they're driving along, and Roslyn says, you know, if I'm not afraid anymore, Gay, you know. If we were to raise a kid that was courageous, in other words, she's saying a kid that weren't like us, that were just running away from society, do you feel that way too? And he said, would you feel like you want to be in a marriage again, a relationship like that? And he said, yeah, I'm not, or she asked him, would you be afraid of something like that? He said, no, I wouldn't be afraid. And the movie ends, again, in real life, they weren't looking at the horses, they were looking at the soundstage, and then they're not looking at a star, but they're looking at the soundstage. But in the movie, it shows them, she says to Gay, so how do you get out of this place in the dark? In the last words that Clark Gable said in a movie was, well, you see that star? The highway is underneath it, and it will take us right out.
I'll leave tomorrow. Okay.
God bless you, girl.
I was scared to when you asked me, but I'm not so much now, are you?
No.
How do you find your way back in the dark?
Just head for that big star straight on. The highway's under it.
The very last scene is showing the star and the mountains. Hopefully I can find that very spot from the ridgeline, and it's probably near the place that I went. I went to all these places, and Flat Lake scene is near Dayton, Nevada. And then that Dayton is where they filmed the saloon scene, all the scenes along the sidewalk, when they drive in, and also where they're walking to the Odeon Saloon, it's still there. And a little further out, about 10 miles east, near Virginia City. So it's Virginia City, Dayton, and then I think it's Surprise, Nevada. There is where the dry lake bed is. My name is Ray Capote for the Misfits Mystique. Thank you for joining me. And as always, cheers.